Hello and welcome to the course. This course is all about basic Linux hacking. You should already be able to install a Linux computer and to use Linux. If Linux is totally new to you, if you haven't used Linux before, then use other courses first to learn Linux. This course is about basic hacking. So you should be able to already install Linux and use Linux basically. And then in this course, it's all about hacking Linux computers. First steps into hacking Linux computers. So you need to have a Linux computer, preferably two. Otherwise you can use virtualization software to run two computers side by side, like VirtualBox or VMware. And you'll learn how you can hack a Linux computer, some basic techniques we'll cover in this course. So it is an intermediate course because you should already be able to use Linux and to install Linux onto computers. In this course you will need to have two computers available in order to do the hacking. So one computer the targets and another computer hacking. Now the target computer can be any Linux system you want, so whether you want to use Ubuntu, Fedora, SUSE, Red Hat, whatever Linux system you want to use. For the hacking computer we'll use a system called Kali Linux. You can get it from kali.org. So you can get it for free. So if you go to kali.org, this website, you can download Kali Linux. If you click download, you can download the Kali Linux system and then install it onto your second computer. So you will need two computers for this course. One the target computer and one the computer on which you will carry out the hacking. Hello and welcome back to the course. So the first thing to know about computers is anything connected to the internet or the network has its own network address, so-called IP address. So regardless of whether it's a Windows computer, a Mac computer or Linux computer, all of them have their own network address. For example, here we can go to the settings menu in this Ubuntu computer and then we'll go to network and click on this little wheel and you'll see they have a unique address. This computer has a unique IP address. You'll see here IP version 4 address. That's the network address of this computer and that is unique for that computer. Now this is for any computer. So if I go to the terminal here and type the command IP space A space S, this is a Linux computer, you'll see it's highlighted the address of this computer. So those addresses are always 4 numbers separated by dots. You'll see in both cases they are separated by dots and they have connectivity between them. So we can, for example, say hello to that computer and it will reply hello. To do that, you can use the ping command. So you can type ping with the target computer and you'll see it gets reply from that computer on the right. So now there's communication between the computer on the left and the computer on the right. Now it also works in the other direction. So if we get the address with the command IPAS and let's say we open a terminal in this computer, we can say ping with the address and you'll see we get reply from the computer on the left. And on a computer you can install all kind of applications, right? So you can go to your app store and download and install all kind of applications. For example, we can search for FTP server and then we might find FTP related programs. So specific types of programs we can install. And these applications sometimes allow communication from one computer to the other. So, and sometimes that is in the system itself. So if we go to the file explorer, we can say, for example, right click local network share. So we can share that folder on the network. We can say share this folder and then we will share the folder on the network. So there is communication, or there can be communication between one computer and another computer on the network. And to do that, these computers need to communicate in a language. That language is called a protocol. It's different applications use different protocols. For example, if you use the web, you have your computer communicating with another computer somewhere on the internet, and they use a protocol called HTTP. So if we go to google.com, you'll see HTTP:// in front of it. That means that is the protocol, the language that is used to communicate between the two computers. So the computer of Google and your computer, they use the HTTP language to communicate. And that is obviously the language for web pages and websites. But that's not the only protocol. There are many different languages computers use. For example, BitTorrent for file sharing. There's FTP for file sharing, SSH for remote connections. And when you install a desktop, for example, using RDP or VNC, if we type VNC here, you'll see we have remote desktop clients. They'll use another language, another protocol. So protocols are just languages that software uses, and this software can communicate over the network to another software using that same language. So of course they need to speak the same language in order to communicate. So those are protocols, are simply languages apps use, and these apps can then communicate in that language. So it's really app specific, but multiple apps can use the same language. For example, when you have the web, you might use Firefox, you might use Chrome, you might use Brave or Vivaldi or any other program. They all use the same language. So regardless of whether you use Firefox, Chrome or anything else, you open a website like google.com, all of them use that HTTP language. So HTTP is not dependent on an app. It's a language that can be used by multiple applications. So that's the main thing to remember here, that protocols are just languages used by apps. And any computer can run multiple apps that communicate over the network, so-called servers. So if we open a terminal on the left and the terminal on the right, and let's see what is the network address of this computer. Let's see, I found the network address. Then we can see, is that computer on the right running any apps that communicate over the network? We can see that with a program called nmap. I press enter and you'll see it's running two apps that communicate over the network. So an app for SSH that communicates with SSH language or protocol, and an app that's using FTP language or protocol. You'll see they have different ports, so port 21, port 22. That's because computers, they use numbers and they don't use words. And these numbers are always assigned to specific protocols. So you'll find that 21 is always FTP, 22 is always SSH, and so on. For HTTP or HTTPS is always port 80 and 443. So those numbers for the languages are always the same. So unlike human languages that don't have any number, like 1 for English, 2 for French, there's no such things. But for computers, there are, and those numbers are called ports. So that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next videos. Hi and welcome back. So when two computers communicate, what often happens is that they send a message to the computer and that computer returns a message. Now they have to speak the same language, the same protocol. Protocol is just another word for language. And there are many languages which are not app dependent, so multiple apps can use the same language. For example, Firefox, Chrome, Vivaldi, they all use all web browsers. They all use the same language. It's not like if you use Firefox, you use another internet than using Chrome. And the same for email. Email is not dependent, whether you use Outlook or Apple Mail or any other program. They use the same language underneath to have the computers communicate between each other, the same protocols. Now there are many protocols. Some famous are commonly used and others not so commonly used. So on the internet you can find many lists of protocols. You'll see here on Wikipedia has an enormous list of protocols with well-known ports and not so well-known. For example, there's the FTP protocol, which we'll talk a bit about in this course, as well as the secure shell protocol. So two different protocols, number 21 and 22. But if you scroll down this list, you'll see many protocols. Really, there's hundreds of different languages that are used for computers or between computers. For example, there's IRC protocol. You'll see here IRC, Internet Relay Chat, which is quite old. So that used to be a language between two computers where just for chatting. So if you scroll down here, you'll see they have a chat computer and people would be able to log into that computer and then chat with each other. So a chat language or a chat protocol. And that looks something like this. So they could simply chat with each other. And there are all kind of protocols. So obviously we cannot cover all of the protocols. We'll just cover some basics and how you would be able to hack them. So some common protocols that Linux users often use, and then how you can use those protocols to break in or to hack the computer. I'll see you in the next videos. Hey there, awesome people. It's Frank, and today we're diving into the world of file transfer. Don't worry, we'll keep it as easy as ordering pizza. So imagine this situation. You have two computers, a computer on the left and a computer on the right. This computer on the right has some files, some pictures that we want to copy to the computer on the left. Now, one way to do that is using a magical tool called FileZilla. So it's like your superhero sidekick for moving files around the network or the internet. And guess what? It's free. Yes, completely free. So let's, if you don't have FileZilla installed, make sure to install FileZilla. So you can get it from the web or your store, depending on your computer system. So the program is called FileZilla, and you can use this to transfer files from one computer to another computer. So once you install this, you can start the program. And it will look something like this. If you want, you can change the interface a bit in the settings. They have an option, so I like to put it in the classic interface. Change it to classic. So we have two bars, one on the left and one on the right. So on the left is our system. So we have our system on the left. Now let's say I delete these pictures. Okay, we don't have any pictures on the computer on the left. Now we can connect to the computer on the right. For this to work, we need to install a program called an FTP server on the computer on the right. There are many FTP servers. Just make sure you have one running. So for Ubuntu Linux, which is this system, you can install a program called Vs FTP. So you can install this program, Vs FTPD, on Ubuntu Linux with this command. Press enter if you want to install it. Now for Windows and Mac, you'll have to use another program. The principles is the same. So you need to install an FTP server and then simply connect to the computer on the right. So to connect, we need an address, network address. We can find it in settings. So if we go to settings, network, and then click on the little wheel, we'll see the network address. Type that in. Then username, password of your computer. And then click Quick Connect. And then we'll be connected to the computer on the right here and to your computer on the left. So let's go to the pictures directory. Enlarge this a bit. You'll see I have those pictures at the beginning of the video. So in the pictures directory, we have those pictures 1, 2, and 3. We can select them, right click, download. And now those pictures are downloaded to the computer on the left. Now let's verify that. So let's go out of FileZilla. We open the pictures directory and we just transferred those files from the computer on the right to the computer on the left. Now by transfer, we mean make a copy. We didn't delete the original ones. So transfer in file transfer protocol or FTP means to copy them from one computer to another. So we transferred the files using the file transfer protocol. To the pictures directory, those files are now there. Hello and welcome back. In the last video, we transferred pictures from one computer to the other computer using a program called FileZilla. We can also do that in the command line. So this program will be all about the command line. So we're going to delete those pictures, open a new terminal, a new command line, and now we'll transfer them. So first we'll go into the pictures directory and then connect to the computer on the right and download these pictures. So we type FTP file transfer, press O, which stands for connect, which is obvious. Then we need to have the computer address again. So we can go to settings, In the settings menu, go to network, then type that network address will be different on your computer. Username, password. Then we go to the pictures directory on the right computer on the right. We list the files using the ls commands. So you'll see we have a bunch of pictures here, image 1, image 2, image 3. We can simply type get -r or mget star, and then yes, yes, yes. And now let's see if we go to the pictures directory. There they are again. So this is an alternative to using FileZilla. You can use the command line and just type ftp connect and then download or upload whatever files you want. So obviously this is a little bit more tricky because you have to type commands. With FileZilla you have a graphical interface to interact with that computer. Hey guys, and welcome back. So you might want to be able to configure the computer or any other computer in your network without actually walking over there. You can do that using a tool called SSH or a protocol SSH. So to do that, we open a terminal on both computers, and on the right computer we only open it to know the computer address. So we can get the network address either using the settings menu or by typing IPAS. That will show you the address of this computer. So you'll see this is the same address as you might find in the settings menu. So if we go to settings and then go to network and click on the little wheel, you'll see the same network address. So we're going to use that to totally control this computer. Before we start, we need to install the SSH server. So we type sudo apt-get install OpenSSH server and press enter. Yes. Now that will install the server program. And once it's installed, we'll make sure that we enable it and we'll check the status. So we check sudo service SSH status and you'll see active and running. Now if it is not active and running, you can type start. That would start it. Okay, so now that we know that, we can now remotely connect to this computer. So we type SSH with the username of this computer on the right, and then add their IP address. Then type the password. Okay, that's obviously the wrong password. Type the right password, and now you can remotely control the computer on the right. Now this is a Linux terminal, so you'll have to type Linux commands. If you're not familiar with this, then learn the Linux terminal. So this is really the Linux command line, so we can remotely control this computer. And you'll be able to do things in the computer remotely, system administration things. For example, we have pictures here. Let's say we go to the pictures directory and we can copy some file. So you'll see we are remotely controlling this computer using the SSH protocol. So SSH allows you to remotely control a whole computer. So that's really what SSH is about. You can do anything in this terminal as you would do on a Linux terminal on the computer on the right. So we just have remote control through the terminal, similar to remote desktop, but now completely terminal based. Hello and welcome back. In the last videos was all about transferring files using the file transfer protocol, FTP in short. It showed a legitimate case where files were transferred from one computer to another computer. In this video we'll take another approach. We'll start using Kali Linux. You'll see this computer system, which is all about hacking and cybersecurity. So you'll see a lot of tools here for hacking and cybersecurity that is not included in regular computer systems. So what do we do? Well, what we could do naive approach would be to simply run FTP, press the O of connect, then type the address of the computer on the right. So if we go to settings, you would take the address of this computer. That's the address of this computer. And one simple approach would be to simply guess the password. So let's say we know the username, and then we try to guess the password. And if the password protection is really bad or not password protected at all, you might simply log in, right? If that's not the case, you'll need to crack the password. So how do you crack such a password? On Kali, there's a tool for that called Hydra. Now, if you type Hydra, you get the command to show. You can specify a user and the password, also the address. So this password is a password list. It's a text file with a lot of different passwords. We can get such a password list because it's included in Kali Linux by default. So we go to user share word lists, and we have a password list right here. So right click copy. We're gonna copy it to the default directory, extract it. Now, this might take a moment to extract the file. It's a password list of 133 megabytes, 1.4 million commonly used passwords. So those are passwords people used on the internet in the past. So 1.4 commonly used passwords. So what we'll do is we'll use Hydra, then the username, use the password, and then specify the address. So that's ftp:// Let's make it a bit larger. With the address, so that was 192.168, and then rest of the address of this computer. So if we take a look, it was 124.50. So if I run that, it will try every password in this text file with this username. It's a very large file, so if you take a look in that password file, you'll see commonly used passwords, lots and lots of different passwords. And this is really 1.4 million commonly used passwords. So by running this, it will try this username with all of the passwords in that file. So if I press enter, it will start trying different passwords in that list from top to bottom. And you'll see it cracked the password. So now we are able to log into that computer because we just cracked the password for that username. Username, and then the password we just cracked. And we are in the computer. So that's all it took to crack the security of this system, is they had a really bad password. So you can do that with Hydra. You can crack any FTP service using a password list. So that password list in this case is rockutxt if you know the username and the target. Now you might think, okay, I cannot go into the settings here on the target computer, right? You don't have access, so you might not be able to go to settings and then go to connected and then click there and so on, right, to get that address. Instead, what you can do is run a command called netdiscover. So you'll see by default it shows this error, which means you have to run it as root, which means that just type that in front, that solves the problem. And when you run this command, it will automatically find anyone on the network. So it will find that address by simply running this command. Now it might take a moment, and then it will show all the computers, all the devices on the network. So this is one way to find out the devices on the network. You'll see it's moving upwards, so it might take a moment to find the devices that you're looking for. So it might take a moment to find the computer on the right. It's just a matter of time, and then it will find that address. So an alternative, if I break this, is the command sudo arpscan -- localnet. That will also find computers on the local network. And you'll see we found two computers here on the network. So two different commands to discover other computers on the network that might be running an FTP server. Hi guys, and welcome back to the course. In the last video you saw that you can use SSH for remote administration. So great for administration purposes. But what about hackers? So in this video we'll show you how a hacker might hack into the SSH system. So on the left we have Linux, a system often used by hackers for cracking and malicious purposes. So we're gonna start it, and on the right we have a regular Ubuntu box, the same as before, which is running the SSH service. You can actually verify that. So we can check with the commands. Hold on, let me move this here. Sudo service SSH status. So you'll see this one is running on secure shell server, SSH servers. You'll see here SSH. So with this command you can check that it's running. And what we'll do is we'll try to crack this computer. So we'll wait until the hacker's computer started. Okay, so the hacker's computer has been started. Now the hacker might want to know, first of all, is there anybody else on this computer network? To find out, they might simply do a scan. So they open a terminal here with this little button and they run sudo arp-scan -- localnet to scan for any other computers in the network. And you'll see they found 2 computers in the network. They might be interested, is this computer running any services, like maybe an FTP server, an SSH server, and so on. So they can check that with nmap. So it's running, and you'll see this computer, which obviously is the computer on the right, is running an SSH service as well as an FTP service. So now that he knows there's an SSH service, he might try to just simply log in, right? So SSH with user @ and then the computer's address. Might simply try to log into that computer with SSH. And then they are asking for a password. So the hacker doesn't know the password, so they might simply try every password one by one. So trying and trying, and they could do that using a password list, so a little bit more systematically than just guessing. But in this way it would be very, very tedious to try and crack the password. So what hackers will often do is have automated attacks with a tool called Hydra. So with Hydra they can do an automated attack, and basically they have to type Hydra -l, the username, then a password file, a password list, and then the target. So in this case // with the computer address of the right, which was this address. Paste, and then press enter. But wait a minute, we need to have a password list file. So luckily that is included with Kali Linux by default. If you want more passwords, then there's always password lists on the internet. So we go to the directory user share word lists, and here you'll find a file called rockutxt.gz. So we're going to copy that, paste it, and then extract it. And you'll see it's extracting the file, and it's just a large text file with 1.4 million passwords. So this is just a large text, so I'm not going to double click because it will likely crash the notepad because there's just so many passwords. I can show you quickly just a small set of them, and you'll see these are commonly used passwords, and there are 1.4 million in this list, so really a lot of passwords. And what we'll do is we'll just change the name here to that file name, and then we'll press enter. So make sure that that file is in the Kali directory. So let's press enter and see what happens. So it's now trying every password one by one, and you see it found the username that was already defined and the passwords. So now they can remotely log in using SSH because they have the username and password. So this is one possible tool. You can use Hydra to crack the password. Another tool you can use is Medusa, which is the same kind of tool but works slightly different. So if you type Medusa, you'll see you can use this command, so Medusa -h for the host. let's see what it was. We have the password, so of course there's no points, but let's see, just to show you that Medusa can be used instead of Hydra if you want to. Then you need to specify a user, so -u with the username and -p for the password file. So -u Ubuntu, -p rockutxt, and specify a module, in this case SSH, and then it will try password one by one. But because this user picked the first password in the list, you'll see it immediately found the password. So let's say they didn't pick the first password in the list, then you would, if you run this program, it has the advantage over Hydra that it's showing all of the passwords that it tries. So you'll see here it tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it does that password. So if the password is not the first one in the list, you'll see all of the passwords it tries. So Hydra doesn't show that. If you run Hydra, you'll see it just outputs the passwords once it found it, but it doesn't have any intermediate output. Anyway, you can use either Hydra or Medusa to crack an SSH server. That's it for this video.